Hey everybody, Dave Duford here. Hope you guys are having a fantastic day. I'm here with Aaron. Aaron, say hello.
Hey.
Aaron is an agent of mine, and what we're going to be doing on this video is a mock presentation. Aaron's a newer agent with us, starting to get a lot of leads in, and we're here today to practice his script so that his presentation is on point, so that when he actually runs the leads, he's going to make some sales. So what we're going to be doing here is a full presentation, and then at the end of the presentation, I'm going to give some critiques to Aaron to help him hopefully feel more confident when he's in the field working leads. So without further ado, let's begin. Hello.
Hi there.
Yeah.
I'm Aaron.
Aaron.
We have the 1 o'clock appointment.
Yeah, okay. Well, how you doing today?
Doing good. How are you?
Hey, come on, I'm good.
Let's set the kitchen table and talk about
Okay. You got it. You want some coffee or anything here?
Yeah, I'd appreciate it. A cup of coffee black would be great.
There you go. Very good. All right.
Hey, how's your day been so far, Dave?
Can't complain. It's early. It's just getting started. Feeling like a little winter out there now.
Right. Well, how long you lived in Chattanooga?
Longer than I can remember. Probably since I think I was 3 years old. We moved down here from Michigan, and my mom and dad did for work, and I've lived here ever since.
And you like it?
Yeah, it's all right, I guess. It gets hot in the winter, or hot in the summer sometimes with humidity, but you know, can't complain. It's a family place, so I like it.
That's nice. So, are you still retired? Are you retired or are you still working?
Oh, I'm retired. I'm done with working, that's for sure.
So is retirement all it's cracked up to be?
No, it's pretty boring, really. It's all I do is sit around and watch TV, and it gets to you sometimes, you know.
Right. What's your favorite show?
Probably The Price is Right.
The Price is Right?
Yeah, my grandma used to watch it, Mom watched it, now I watch it. It's kind of a, thing.
Do you have any particular one that you like the best?
What do you mean?
On The Price is Right. Yeah, it's a little contest, right?
Oh yeah, that's right. The one where the man climbs up the hill.
Yeah.
That one's the best.
Gotcha. All right. So, you got any grandkids?
Not yet. I wish I would.
All right, good.
Might make it a little less boring.
I got you. Well, I noticed that you had a fishing pole on next to the door. You
That's
go
right.
fishing from time to time?
We go fishing. The bass fishing down here is good, as you know. So we like doing it.
Okay. Well, now that I know a little bit about you, let me tell you a bit about who I am and what I do.
Okay.
My name is Aaron here. I'm an independent licensed life insurance agent in the state of West Virginia.
Okay.
And here's my license showing I've jumped through all the hoops and passed all the tests to be a bona fide agent.
Okay.
Now, Dave, the reason my clients do business with me is because I'm what's called a broker. Do you know what that is?
What do you shop around and try to find the best coverage?
Yeah, so basically I'm not married to a company like State Farm or Allstate. I have access to all the companies.
Gotcha.
And what I do is I shop around and I get you not only the best price, but also the best value of coverage.
Right.
So I basically get you the best bang for your buck.
Okay.
All
Cool.
right? And lastly, since life insurance is about family, here's a picture of my wife and kids.
Okay, great. Oh, look at all you got 6 kids. Good Lord, man.
Yep.
That's good.
I'll be busy till I die.
It sure looks like that. It's like you're not retiring either, so.
No, I already checked that off. That's why I had to find something that's not so labor intensive.
There you go. Right. I got you.
Now, that you know a little bit about me, I'd like to tell you more about why I'm here.
Yeah, sure.
And the reason I'm here is because you returned a mailer
Okay.
about the high cost of final expense, and you want to plan to take care of it.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So, with that said, what were your thoughts and concerns when you sent this mailer back?
I don't know what. I'm trying to remember. Was this about the state regulated program?
That's correct.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I just wanted to see what was out there, and I'm not getting any younger.
Right. So, do you have any? What prompted you to return it? Just to see what's out there, or you had to have something in mind when you did it.
Well, I just retired.
Okay.
And we had life insurance coverage, but it's gone. I don't know if you had aware of this, but a lot of the times the coverage you get from work, you retire, it's only good while you work, and then it goes away.
Right.
So I'm at a point now where, I don't have anything.
Okay. How much did you have when you were working?
Oh, I made $40,000 a year, and they gave me 3 times my salary, so $120,000. But I don't have anything now. I mean, I had some friends die, and they didn't have coverage, and that kind of got me thinking too.
How was that like?
Terrible. When Jim died, he didn't have any coverage, and he had a stroke all of a sudden, right?
Right.
And they had to borrow money. They went around the church and passed the plate and tried to get it paid off, and it was just a real big burden for me. Yeah. And I just don't want to have that happen to me.
I understand that's awful when you can't even just focus on the funeral because you're trying to figure out how to pay for everything. So how
Can you
would
grab that?
Hold on, let me turn it off.
Okay.
My bad.
Hey, it happens in real appointments, so.
Spam risks,
Yeah,
of course.
some telemarketers. Man, they call me all the time, man. I tell you what, all these telemarketers constantly trying to sell me something.
All right, I hear you. What's the popular one? The car warranty?
Oh, yeah, I don't pick them up anymore. I got tired of them.
Well, I mean, depending on if I have a little time on driving, I'll answer it. And
Right.
give them a run for it. I told the last, she asked me what car I drove, and I told a lawnmower. She asked me if it was a Lamborghini. I said, no, a lawnmower. Oh, you mean a Land Rover? No, lawnmower. Then she hung up. So, well, God forbid if you died today, how would your family carry the burden of
I don't really know.
your funeral costs?
I guess my kids would have to pay for it, but
How many kids you got?
2. But they're not in good financial shape. They're just like a lot of people who've been struggling lately.
Right.
I wouldn't want that to be passed to them.
Okay, so how do you think things would have been different if Jim had, for example, had life insurance? Or even had just half to pay for what y'all spent on the funeral costs?
Easier would have been much easier. Just, if he had life insurance, he wouldn't have had his kids and spouse beg, frankly.
Right, it's humiliating a little bit, isn't it?
It is humiliating. You should be prepared, and you should get the thing, but you never bother to, and until it's too late sometimes. So.
All right. Well, Dave, let me ask you this.
Sure.
What would you like your new life insurance coverage to accomplish?
I would say that for me, I just don't want to be a burden to my kids. I just want to be buried properly. Nothing fancy. I'm not worried about the whole, gold lined casket with the velvet pillows.
Right.
So I just want to be. I don't want my kids to have to pay out of pocket for it.
Gotcha.
I don't want to be a burden to them.
Right. Now, who do you want the beneficiary to be?
My daughter, Emily. She's a responsible one.
She's a responsible.
Yeah.
It happens to be that way. My daughters are the responsible ones. My boy runs all rush.
Yeah. Well, you gotta start thinking about this stuff because you hear these horror stories where people take the money and go blow it on something else other than the funeral. That's happened.
Really?
Yeah. You really have to pick someone you trust.
Yeah, I agree. So, sounds like Emily is the right person.
Yep.
So, so how much do you know about the high cost of funerals?
Well, when Jim died, I think all I know is the burial was so expensive that he ended up getting cremated.
Right.
And I think it was between the showing and the cremation, maybe a couple thousand. I don't really know. I didn't really ask, and it's not my business. But I know they wanted him buried, but they just couldn't do it.
Right. Okay. Well, I'd like to show you some recent numbers on the high cost of funerals. It's really crazy how out of control funeral prices have gotten, and just how high they're going to keep going.
Yeah.
All right. So, by the way, did you want to? You said buried, right? You don't want to be.
You're correct. Yeah, I don't want to be. Don't want to burn twice.
I hear you. You don't want to burn twice. So, let me show you this article by the Business Insider a few years ago. See this chart that shows how quickly final expense costs have risen. For example, funeral costs rose 250% from 1986 to 2017. So, in other words, a $5,000 burial in 1986 today would run $12,500.
Yeah.
That's just crazy, right?
Yeah. No, that's amazing how much costs have gone up.
And guess what?
What?
Like everything in life, It isn't going to stop going up either, right?
I know after all that's going on right now, inflation.
So check out these two charts. They show how much prices will continue to go up based on how costs have increased on average over the last 100 years. So you can see this here, a funeral cost about $11,841 in 2020. And that's about average, right?
Sure.
So, and if prices continue to go up at the same rate as they always have by 2040, the average funeral cost will be $22,003.
Wow.
It's just insane, right?
I never thought about that. That's a lot of money.
Well, the same thing with cremation. An average cremation with service runs right now about $4,623.
Okay.
And in 2020, it'll go for about $9,076.
Okay.
Right? So if you're a young man or woman seeing prices go up that high, it seems unbelievable or ridiculous.
Sure.
Right? But you've lived long enough. Right?
Yes, sir.
You know that prices do go up over time.
They do.
And that's why it's just so important to prepare.
I agree. You're right.
And just make sure you have enough coverage, right?
Mm-hmm.
All right. Now, beyond covering the funeral costs, do you have any reason to have more coverage? For example, medical bills, maybe a legacy for Emily. You know.
I mean, I guess it depends on how much it costs. Can you give me an idea of what it would run for, like $15,000?
50,000?
15.
15. Okay. Well, so that's kind of what you're trying to you're aiming for.
Maybe, I don't know. I'm on a tight budget. I'm just curious.
Right. I got you. Well, so let me make sure I understand everything, Dave. What you're looking for is enough coverage to pay for your burial, because you don't want to burden your relatives like Jim did, right?
Sure, yeah.
Okay. And you're not looking for too much coverage because you don't want to make your kids rich, right?
Yeah.
Right. And you want to make sure that you have a fairly priced program too, is that correct?
Right.
All right. Now I know where you stand on budget. I want to spend some time. All right, so let me.
You're good. Yeah, no stress.
All right. So let me ask you a few basic health questions, and just kind of get an idea of what direction we can.
Sure.
All right. So I don't know what your particular situation is. Let me go ahead and ask you some basic health questions to figure out what program.
Okay, that's fine.
All right. So, what's your birthday?
November 2nd, 1950.
Okay. And do you use tobacco?
No, not anymore.
Chew? Vape?
No.
Marijuana?
No.
All right. So,
Plain as a whistle.
all right. Now, can I ask you, do you have any lung problems?
No.
Kidney problems?
No, sir.
Liver problems?
No, sir.
All right, so what you're telling me is you have no COPD, emphysema, you don't use an oxygen tank?
No.
No hepatitis? No dialysis?
Nope.
All right, so no pills, insulin, no diabetic complications?
Correct.
Okay. Have you had any history of heart problems?
Well, I have atrial fibrillation. AFib, you know what that is? It's like where your heart flutters.
I get that, but I was just more coughing.
Yeah, it's a little more serious than coughing.
I got you.
Nothing else but heart issues, though. No heart attacks or strokes or anything.
No strokes. You ever have seizures or bypasses? Stents, pacemakers, water pills?
Nope.
Okay. Now, Dave, I do have to ask you, have you been hospitalized in the past 12 months overnight for any reason?
I had a knee surgery, but it was outpatient. That was 10 months ago.
Right,
So I didn't stay overnight,
Perfect. And have you ever had cancer, Dave?
I didn't, enough.
Okay. And, you seem like you're with me here, but do you have any depression, bipolar, schizophrenia, dementia, Alzheimer's?
No, sir.
Any neurological problems like lupus or Parkinson's?
Nope.
Okay, so we're good on that. And have you had any drug-related addictions in the past year?
Mm-hmm.
Pain medication or Suboxone?
Nope.
All right, I'm asking.
That's okay.
It's okay. And what's your height and weight, Dave?
I'm 6 foot 265.
65?
265.
265. Well, 65 would probably be worse than
Yeah, I know, right?
Well, can you grab your medications for me to look at real quick?
Sure, here you go.
All right.
So I just take, that's a metoprolol. That's for the AFib. Then lisinopril. That's for the blood pressure. That's all I take.
Okay. Great. Anything else? Take any vitamins? All right. So I have 2 more questions.
Okay.
So first, how our billing works is that the companies don't send me out to collect the money like in the old days.
Right.
So they require everyone paying monthly to set up either a draft from their local checking or savings account,
Okay.
or some people have the Direct Express card.
I pay local.
Local?
Yeah.
Now, David, I appreciate it. The final question I have for you is about price. So let me be totally upfront with you.
Okay.
9 out of 10 people I see draw disability or retirement and are on a fixed income.
Yeah, that's me.
Correct? So basically, they all want life insurance, but they want to make sure that they can afford it too.
Sure.
Right? So because what's the point of having a policy that it's too much, right?
Yeah.
So you'll drop it in 6 months because you can't afford it.
Sure.
So Dave, the truth is, the best policy is the one that you have when you need it.
Yeah.
Correct? That's there when you die. Does that make sense?
That's right.
All right. So if I can qualify you for a program today, right? And can you afford somewhere between $150 to $200 a month?
It's kind of high there, sir.
Okay, not a big
I was
problem.
hoping it would be more like,
So if I go ahead.
I mean, I just hope you put like $50 a month.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this. You had mentioned that you want $15,000 in coverage.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So if we had to go a little bit higher than $50 to hit the $15,000, what would you still be comfortable with? Would it be 100 to 125?
Well, I think I could probably afford $100 a month.
Okay. So if I found you another program,
Okay.
and that's more in the 85 to 95, would that?
Yeah, I can do that.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you're absolutely comfortable if it were to get close to what you want for your benefit for 85 and 95.
Yeah.
I would be
Yeah, for sure.
comfortable. It wouldn't be an issue
Right,
for you.
right.
Take food off your plate.
Nope.
All right. Okay. So, Dave, now that I know where you stand on budget, I want to spend some time describing how my program to your final expenses works.
Okay.
Is much better than the other options.
Okay.
Dave, I'm well aware that you're completely flooded with countless commercials on TV, spam, junk mail, and it's all about insurance, right?
Yeah, constantly.
So the truth is, Dave, all insurance is not the same.
Right.
In fact, some programs are better than others.
Okay.
Okay? Either way, I'm sure you agree with me that it's important to know all the facts before making a decision about your final expense.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay? That way you know which one's right for you. All right, so let me ask you this. Do you know the difference between term and whole life?
No, I don't.
Okay, that's okay. Most people don't. Let me describe to you the difference so you more clearly know which
kind of
program
wondered. Yeah.
is best suited for you.
Okay.
So check this out. You know who AARP is?
I do. How could I not?
Right.
They get their stuff all the time through rat trash.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well, AARP sells all sorts of insurance, including a life insurance program.
Okay.
And it's called a level term product. You see where I highlighted it on the front here?
Okay, yeah.
Now, the simple way to remember how term works, Dave, is that all term terminates. Okay? In other words, any program called term life insurance will cancel. Now, see the highlight print again, read out loud.
Yeah, you have level coverage in 5-year increments that cancels or until age 80.
That's right.
Okay.
So, AARP is designed to cancel your coverage at 80. So you could be in perfect shape, almost deceased. It doesn't matter, right? They'll cancel your coverage completely at 80, and no, you don't get your money back. So that's crazy, right?
Why would somebody buy something like that?
So term has a good. It has its use. For example, if you're like starting out and you're younger, so you get a high benefit for a very low cost.
Okay.
In case something happens to your family when you're trying to get everything going. But
Sure.
when it comes to final expenses, it's not a gamble to take, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, what if you put all that money in and you outlive it?
Correct. So, if you look at the fine print here, you'll also see that the prices actually increase over time.
Yeah.
So we call this a bait and switch program. Have you heard of that?
Yeah,
Right.
for sure.
So they start you out cheap, but they raise the prices. And then when you retire, you're on a budget, fixed income,
Right.
and that's when they try to get rid of you, right? So,
Yeah.
So my boss had a client age 76 in Flintstone, Georgia, who had the very same policy, and the day he met her, she was looking to replace her AARP term insurance. Now, when she was 75, she was paying $50 a month for her term insurance, right? Guess how much she paid when she turned 76?
How much?
$140 a month.
It's a wreck.
$140 a month.
Yeah.
So she was paying $140 a month.
Yeah.
So my boss, David, asked her how much she was paying. Well, and you can guess what happens afterwards. So.
Yeah. Why? Could she afford it?
Not under $800 a month Social Security.
Oh, wow. Yeah. That's terrible.
So she had to cancel.
These companies screw these seniors like this. It's just a bunch of crap.
So what happened was, now she still wanted coverage, but her health had gone bad, and she had bad lung disease, was on oxygen, and just couldn't get any more qualified for any other coverage.
Right.
So, bottom line, I have to ask you, are you planning to kick the bucket before or after 80?
Hell if I know. I don't know.
That's right.
Yeah.
See, who knows when our last day is going to be?
Right. That's
right.
That's true.
Now, so what's the point of having a policy that's going to cancel before you do?
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Okay, so that's why I don't recommend term insurance to anyone that is serious about protecting their family from the high funeral costs. And why take a gamble on something that's going to hurt your family?
Right. That's true.
So that's how term insurance works. Moving on. Have you heard of Colonial Penn?
Yeah, that's the Alex Trebek guy, right?
You do more about it than I. Yeah, it's the guy, the Jeopardy guy, right?
Jeopardy guy, yeah.
Yes.
On Jeopardy. Yeah.
It's the Jeopardy guy endorsed it, correct? Well, they do what's called the guaranteed acceptance. So basically, all you do is sign the piece of paper and send it in, no medical questions, nothing like that. Sounds a little fishy, right?
Yeah, I mean, what's the catch, right?
Right. So here's the truth. Look at the fine print at the bottom of this form.
Yeah.
Can you read to me what the highlighted words say?
I understand there's a reduced death benefit for 2 years if death occurs by non-accidental death.
Do you know what that means?
Sounds like if I die of an accident, I'm covered, but not natural.
Correct.
Right.
So what it really means you have no natural death coverage for the first 2 years at all. Okay. So in other words, if you die by anything other than an accident, it's not going to cover you for the first 24 months. Right? So my boss told the story of his first client in Wildwood, Georgia. His dad had passed away with a Colonial Penn policy, so they went to the funeral home and presented the policy. And the short thing of it is the funeral director told him that it was no good. See, he hadn't read that fine print. And so Colonial Penn didn't pay the full amount to the beneficiaries because he had died of a stroke 12 months after he got the policy.
Okay.
So, picture your family in that situation,
Sure.
right? You know, how would they feel if they realized they had no coverage, or they picked a policy that didn't do what they thought it was going to do?
Yeah, that's true. It'd be terrible.
So, bottom line, this kind of insurance is perfect for someone that's bedridden, sick, horrible health, who won't qualify for anything else. But the truth is, David, you want the life insurance companies to ask you questions.
Yeah.
Right? So you want them to ask you questions because it's just going to get you better coverage and a better price.
Okay.
All right. So, Dave, what I offer is called final expense whole life insurance.
Okay.
Your coverage starts at day one. You're completely covered for accidental or natural death. So you definitely do not have a 2-year waiting period. You're covered fully and immediately, and never have to worry about burdening your family with your funeral costs again.
Okay.
All right. So the second thing that we have is it never cancels.
Okay.
So it's never going to cancel due to age or health. As long as you pay the premium, you're going to be covered, right? Now, it doesn't matter if you're 75 or 114, you're never going to get a wage increase letter in the mail like my boss's clients.
Yeah.
Okay? And risk losing the plan and dying without coverage. And the third thing is our price is guaranteed to never increase. So you'll always pay the same money, okay?
Right.
So as sure as, under no circumstances can the price ever go up, your premium is going to be as sure as the sun rises.
Good.
All right?
Okay.
So bottom line is, Dave, my final expense program is what you see is what you get.
Good.
Sounds fair?
Yeah.
So to recap, you know that your price is never going to increase. You have coverage from day one.
Can't cancel the day.
And it can't cancel due to age or health. Thank you, Dave. So, Dave, I have to ask you a question.
Okay.
What do you like best about my program?
Well, what's there not to like? It's certainly better than the term or the 2-year wait. I mean, I like the fact that I'm covered. That's important to me.
Right.
And the prices don't go up,
Exactly. That's pretty much a no-brainer, right? Everybody I show my programs to say the same thing.
Right.
So bottom line, it's all about guarantees, right?
Right. That's true.
So
right.
The other two programs are all about gambles. You don't want to gamble on your life insurance, right?
No.
Okay, so let me narrow down a little bit what we got going on.
Sure. Okay.
Okay. I'm actually going to check your prescriptions and
Okay.
information you
Yep.
gave me and just kind of narrow down to see
Sure.
what program would best suit you.
Sure.
All right, so let me tell you about the company that you can qualify for.
Okay.
Okay. If I was in the house, I'd have this hotspotting on for my...
Yeah, I know. Yeah. Doing it off the phone is kind of a pain.
Well, especially because it's like... Alright, so, the company I got you qualified for is Trinity Life. Actually, it's not our state, it's Family Benefit.
Okay.
Okay, so Family Benefit is out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. All right, they've been in business since 2004, and we have a really good program called Immediate Benefit.
Okay.
And the program that you qualify for is the best price option.
Okay.
Basically, it's everything I described.
Okay.
100% coverage, can't be canceled due to age or health,
Okay.
and your rates never increase. Okay? So, now to make sure I can qualify you with them, let me ask you their health questions. Some of them may sound weird, right? So, bear with me.
Sure.
Okay. So, you already said no to tobacco use, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, have you ever Have you ever received or been given medical advice by a medical professional you need to receive an organ or tissue transplant? So no. All right. Have you been diagnosed or treated by a member of the medical profession as having HIV, AIDS, or ARC, age-related complex?
No.
Have you ever been diagnosed with congestive heart failure, cardiomyopathy, or a life expectancy of 24 months or less? Okay. Have you ever been diagnosed with, treated for, or taken medication for dementia, Alzheimer's, mental incapacity, Down syndrome, Huntington disease, Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, cystic fibrosis,
No.
cerebral palsy, muscular dystrophy, or sickle cell anemia? All right, so no. All right, are you currently or within the past 6 months have you been hospitalized, bedridden, used oxygen to assist in breathing, and confined to a wheelchair, nursing home, hospice, or received home health care, or been on dialysis?
No.
Within the past 12 months, have you been diagnosed as having or been hospitalized for heart attack, stroke, transient ischemic attack, angina, aneurysm, or had cardiac or circulatory surgery of any kind to improve circulation to the heart or brain? Within the past 12 months, have you been hospitalized 2 or more times or been advised by a medical professional to have surgery, hospital confinement, or nursing facilities confinement and have not done so? Okay. Within the past 24 months, have you been diagnosed with having, treated by a medical professional, or taking medication for internal cancer, leukemia, or melanoma? Okay. Now, during the past 24 months, have you been advised by a medical professional to have any diagnostic testing recommended, except for an HIV test, which has not been completed, or for which the results have not been received, or had been advised to have treatment or counseling for alcohol or drug abuse?
No.
No? Okay, perfect. During the past 24 months, have you been treated by a medical professional for insulin shock, diabetic coma, amputation caused by disease, or have ever taken insulin shots prior to age 40? During the past 24 months, have you begun prescribed medication or been hospitalized or been diagnosed as having kidney insufficiency or failure, heart attack, stroke, TIA, which is transient ischemic attack, angina, aneurysm, or had cardiac or circulatory surgery of any kind to improve circulation of the heart and brain? Okay, and have you ever been diagnosed as having multiple sclerosis, epilepsy, Parkinson's, systemic lupus, cirrhosis of the liver, liver disease, liver failure, hepatitis B or C, or lung impairments?
Nope.
Including COPD, chronic asthma, chronic bronchitis, emphysema, and fibrosis?
Nope.
Looks like we're good to go.
Yeah, good.
Perfect.
Feel pretty healthy now.
All right.
I don't want those problems.
Tell me about it. Okay, okay. All right. So look at the budget you gave me to work with.
Mhm.
While also taking into consideration your need for only a simple program, I'm going to show you, and based off of, you said you wanted something in the $50 range.
Yeah,
But you also said you wanted $15,000 in coverage.
sure.
So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you the benefits and the prices.
Okay, sure.
All right. So what we have. So the good news is that all programs fit that budget rather comfortably. Plus, they will all do the job equally well.
Okay.
However, my recommendation is to pick the program that fits your budget best.
Okay.
So, which of these 3 programs is the one you prefer?
So there's no way we can get 15,000 for any cheaper than 102.
This is the best price program that I can get you.
Okay.
No.
I'm just a little worried that 12,000 is not going to be enough. I mean, I can afford it. I'm just worried it's a little short.
Well, just keep in mind, some coverage is better than no coverage, and 12,000 is going to be more than enough to cover your funeral expenses. Based on what you described to me.
Can we upgrade it later on?
Absolutely. If you want to increase your coverage later on, you just give me a call and I'll stop by. I'm your local agent.
Okay. Let's do the 12.
Let's do the 12. Okay. So, I'll take your information from there.
Okay, so now we're doing the debrief part of the presentation here. So I've got a list of notes here, and I'm going to walk through with Aaron kind of my thoughts on the presentation you guys just heard, and some just like commentary back and forth between Aaron to kind of help him, again, tighten up the little loose ends that we heard. I mean, overall, I think Aaron, this sounds really good. Aaron's got, he's written out everything on, what do you got in front of you? Tell the audience something.
I got index cards. So basically what I do is I break, because the script is, can be like a little bit overwhelming.
Yeah.
Like when I look at it, it's like, or you look at you listen to mock recording, it's like almost a half an hour to an hour, depending how far it goes. So
sure.
In my mind, I just break it down to where I can, I can memorize one sentence at a time. So.
Yeah, so what Aaron did is a good idea, which is taking the entirety of the script and then chunking it into pieces, and then being able to look at those pieces, memorize it. And this is and I didn't tell him to do this, so obviously this is a tactic that he's done on his own, but it's something I would absolutely recommend. There's also a truncated, maybe 2 or 3 page like bullet point script that you guys can download. But there's a ton of value in doing what Aaron did and writing this down. When you take something that's given to you and you write it down with pencil or pen on flashcards or even just on notebook paper, it helps you commit better to memory, I think, what you're doing.
Sure.
And it helps you kind of make this your own, because that's ultimately the goal here, is to take the fundamentals of the script and then make sure you're doing the fundamentals and then kind of use your own language, because what the script says to an extent is my language. It's not necessarily Aaron's language, but you want to still not throw the baby out with the bathwater. You want to follow the fundamentals of the script, and eventually you'll start to use your terminology that's more accustomed to you. So
I also recorded it on my phone.
Okay.
So then I hear what I'm saying. The first
one
was so awful. Then when you practice a few times, the next one, like, that wasn't so bad.
So you're recording yourself when you're doing the presentations.
Right, so I can get my own feedback. So.
How do you feel that helps you?
Because, I hear myself talk on the phone. It's like, that wasn't good. I catch myself. I'm my worst critic. So
good. We all are. And the thing I can say is that you guys out here watching, if you're working with me or you're working with somebody else, one of the best tools you can have that doesn't require you to get anybody's time is to record yourself selling, presenting, door knocking, or appointment setting, and then to listen to it. It is going to be very cringe when you do it, but boy, does it teach you better than anything else. Because when you're doing the script, your mind is like, oh my God, it's overwhelming. I'm trying to do this and that. He said what? It's like, oh, there's a lot of this overwhelmed. That's normal. But then when you go back to listen to it, it's like a football team that looks at its tapes,
right,
or looks at the competition's tape. There's a lot that you can take from looking at yourself to what you did in the past, because now you can think constructively about what happened.
Right.
Very, very good you're doing that. So that's excellent. So some debrief here on the presentation. First of all, the beginning of the presentation was fine. Rapport building was great. The goal of rapport building is to build enough, to do just enough. You don't have to be best friends with your prospects. You just got to be friendly with them.
Right.
And I think after a couple of minutes of what you did, we were plenty there.
Right.
I actually could have thought too, personally, that you could have done even less if you wanted to. And I don't know, my opinion is, and you can tell me what you think, there's, on some level, some people just aren't talkative and they're just kind of get to business type. Some you talk to little old ladies and they'll tell you their whole life story, So how did you feel at the end of rapport building? Did you feel, I mean, if you can go back and remember.
So I went through a few of the points that we practiced
Yeah.
just to practice saying them because, we're doing a mock presentation.
Correct,
But
yeah.
I probably would have done the fishing pole, and
Okay.
because once you mentioned that you watch a lot of TV, I mean, once we talked a little bit of your favorite show, and what your favorite part was, from there on, I would probably just.
So if we were in a real life setting, you would have proceeded.
Right.
Okay, perfect,
Right.
perfect.
So, it's kind of like the doctor. He comes in, asks you 5 questions. You think he actually,
Yeah.
But the thing is that you talked, you kind of just opened up a little bit and laughed a little bit.
Yeah. And so the goal here with any face-to-face presentation, at least, is you just want to get the ice broken. You just want to get them to relax.
Right.
And you can do that in 30 seconds to 60 seconds. And then the rest of the presentation is still going to build rapport, because when you ask good questions, you ask about their lives, that kind of thing, that just builds it.
So my question was Jordan Belfort says it's like the C, right? The sharpest attack, enthusiastic, and an expert in your field, and that's what creates the rapport.
Right.
So the questions help, but if you're not that, then everything else doesn't matter anyway. So,
Sure.
So did I come across like I know what I'm doing? Or?
I think you were, overall, I think you asked about tonality. The one thing I would, and this is normal, this isn't a critique, this is just something to think about. And you're recorded on camera. I don't know if you knew that coming in. You're reading the script. You're doing it to me. Enthusiasm could have been better, but I'm not gonna grill you on that.
No, I'm asking.
Yeah, I think you'll get more enthusiastic when you're not in front of the camera in front of me. I think when you're out there in the field and you've done a couple of iterations, I'm sure your enthusiasm will be better.
Okay.
So, but nerves get you. It's normal to feel that way, guys. Jordan Belfort's right. You should be enthusiastic, but.
So was I sharp though? Did it seem that way?
Yeah, I don't think you came off as, a bumbling idiot or anything like that. You knew your stuff, I think, fine. If I were to grade the sharp side, I would say maybe a 3.5 to 4 out of 5. The only reason it's not a 5 is because you're relying on the script.
Okay.
And if you did that to a prospect, they might think,
right.
okay, he's just reading a script.
Gotcha.
I don't think it's the end of the world, though, because your intentions, what matters more than, I think, sharp as attack is your intentions. If you come across as somebody that wants to help someone,
right.
Even if you're relying on reading a script, they can tell, people can tell that you care about helping them. And I don't think there was anything that you said that would have detracted from that.
That's the main thing.
Yes, it is the main thing. The enthusiasm, the sharpness is kind of a projection.
Right.
And it's kind of a performance that you're doing.
Right.
And it's going to come naturally just as you do it more. So I don't have any super you really screwed that up critique. That's fine.
Well, you kind of gave me a few bits of information that I didn't really come to later on in the script, so I kind of tried to hold on to that, but just still go on with my script, because if I skip that whole chunk and just jump, then I'm gonna miss that information for building the presentation.
Sure. So let's see what else here. Body language is good. You made good eye contact the whole time. Didn't seem like you're hobbled or scared or anything like that, or disengaged or anything like that. So body language is important. I think you're fine there.
Okay.
And if you have any questions or comments, just jump in. So introduction was good. The introduction is where we tell the client who we are, why we're there, and why they should care.
Right.
I think it was clear that Aaron's a broker. He specializes with seniors and shops for coverage for the client, so that went well. We do that to set the agenda, to let the client know that we're here for a particular reason. We're here to sell them insurance, or to help them with insurance, so they know what to expect. And that helps clarify things in the mind of the client. Sometimes people won't say the introduction, why are you here? What are you doing? So the fact that you introduce yourself like that just lets them know what the expectation is. What would, so now to pre-qualifying, you said, what were your thoughts and concerns, I think, to sending this back? And I gave the kind of non-answer. I don't really remember why I did that. And I think your answer, what was your answer? Do you remember?
You said,
I think you just asked the question again.
Yeah, because you didn't give me an answer that I could use, so I tried to rephrase it. And,
Yeah.
because the effort it takes to fill out a card and send it in is, I mean, the likelihood of that happens is just not very high. So you were thinking something when you wrote it. You just don't want to tell me right off the bat. So I felt like maybe because we had a little bit of rapport, I felt like if I pushed a little bit more and rephrased the question, if I don't get that information, I don't get the sale.
Yes, so really good points here. So sometimes when you ask the what were your thoughts, concerns question, you're going to get a non-answer. And it's like, well, I just saw the card and sent it back in or some variation. Right. What we're looking for is some sort of emotional connected reason why they did it. Because you have to understand, like, these people have been getting cards their entire lives.
Right.
It's not like this was the first one they ever saw. You know, in this case, I was 71 years old as a prospect. This guy's been getting cards for 2 decades at least, if not longer. And why now is he sending this in? There's something that's happened in his life. You're 100% right. You cannot let these people off the hook and think that, well, I just sent it in because I sent it in. Is it a good enough explanation? It's never a good enough explanation. People do things for reasons. They don't just randomly do stuff, especially when it comes to getting prospected by an agent. Because they know when they send that card back, somebody's be calling them up, knocking on the door, bothering them. So they're taking a risk because there's something that they believe the gain is bigger than the risk of having a salesperson show up. Right? So what do? You do exactly what Aaron did. You listen to the explanation, say, I understand, and then say something along the lines to say, okay, so besides you get these cards all the time and sending back, what really caused you to send this back? Right.
Because then I think that's where we found
out
about Jim, and you had insurance with work, and now you're retired, and so there's a gap for coverage that you didn't feel comfortable with.
We got to the why, and that's the point, right? That's what you were saying is that you don't know the why, you don't make a sale, right? And guys, if you're out there selling insurance or trying to, and you know why they did what they did or why it matters, you're not going to make sales. You're just going to waste time and money.
And you kind of made it easy because once you expressed that you had insurance and you felt uncomfortable not having, and then also Jim not having any, I mean, I think at that point there was enough to
make it real, make it disturbing, right?
So you had enough reason at that point to send in the card,
Yes. So kudos to that. So what Aaron did in his presentation, he went into the why deeper. Okay, so there's the idea of in pre-qualifying we go deeper than deep. We just don't ask why did you send the card back. We ask them, well, what was it like when Jim died in this example? How did the family fare? Because we want to connect the pain that the person experiences, in case they think it's friend, right? And how that family struggled. Every person who looks and sees that happen thinks about it happening to themselves. It's not like they just look and say, oh, wow, that's bad, and then they go about life like nothing happened. People reflect on experiences, tragic ones, and think about themselves in that position. So when you ask the question about Jim experiencing this and what it was like for the family, we know that he was thinking something along the same lines. This is what we call an inflection point in life. The way it works when you buy something is that something happens in your life where you're walking around, mind your own business, and boom, something tragic happened, like death, and you saw what it costs to bury someone. And that is the point in time that happens, that inflection point where your mind changes, and over time, if you think like a graph, the urgency to buy increases till it climaxes, and then you show up and close them, right? So we need to tap back into that inflection. We need to go back and revisit what had happened, because that builds urgency and desire that much more. It reminds them why it was important to begin with, and that is what motivates people to buy. So any thoughts on that? That was very good, going down. You also said things like, what would it have been like if Jim had coverage? Right. That's very good. So you see how bad it was that he didn't have it, and then you see how it could have been if he had it.
Right. And that's the benefit of having this script. Because then in that moment, because I practiced it a few times, I could naturally respond.
Right.
I practiced it, it sounded like me, which it was me, but
sure.
It's me knowing how to answer a question, or being able to make the next move versus me not knowing anything or trying to wing it. So.
Right.
And,
And then you also asked about the beneficiary. We asked about do you know why? So why do we ask about the beneficiary?
Because now you're attaching who you're doing it for, because life insurance really is like helping out. It's taking care of your kids so they don't suffer having to suffer financial hardship because you pass away. So connecting it to Emily, she's the one that's very responsible, and she. In my mind, I see Emily as this hardworking individual that really loves her dad, and for a fact she'd go and borrow $20,000 to cover your funeral, and then make $500 a month payment for the next 5 years. Like that's the kind of person I visualized when you told me.
So really, the point of asking about the beneficiary is who is the beneficiary of this policy, not from a designation on the insurance policy, but who benefits from this. You as the person insured get some kind of peace of mind knowing you're covered.
Right.
But we know as insured people that the reason we have the policy is not for us because we can't take the money with us.
Right.
It is for the people we leave behind and their welfare. So we always want to mention early in the presentation, who do you want your beneficiary to be? Why do you want it to be them?
Right.
And that's when they'll come up with this. Sometimes people have very emotional reasons why they want one kid over another to do it. Right. Sometimes it's who's the most responsible. Sometimes it's this person's been here for me. They've loved me. They've taken care of me when nobody else has. And man, when you get them talking about emotional subjects about people they love, the stuff sells itself.
Right.
So very good there.
Because then you get them to talk about the people that they really love and care about.
Yeah.
Like in my case, it's my kids, right? So, like I did the presentation with my wife, and she's like, "We need to make sure we have enough coverage." Like once you think about
closing her, man.
Yeah. When you think about your kids suffering because you didn't have the wherewithal to put a few bucks in the college somewhere, it's kind of awful.
That's true. It's true. It's why we say it, because it's that opportunity to genuflect on what things we know that we believe, but we don't really sit down and think about.
Right.
This is why life insurance is sold, not bought, because it just takes somebody to help us kind of take that leap of faith to buying and have it all laid out in front of us in a way that's more easily understood.
I think people don't understand it.
Yeah.
Like until I really sat down and looked it up, which, you're so busy with your day, but you get mailers all the time.
Right.
Because you don't know,
That's true. So tell us about the inflation talk with the high cost of funerals. Why did we include that? Yeah.
It's in the script.
Is it? Good answer. That's always the answer.
I could drive a car. I don't have to know how it works.
That's true. That is very wise. You don't have to know why it's there. You just have to read it because it's going to cause things. Now, of course, I want you to understand why we do.
I think it builds the presentation to increase their face amount, so they have enough coverage. So it kind of like it pushes that out a little bit, so then, in a more workable.
Right. So one of the things I've included in the script, if you listen to my old sales presentations, I never do this, but it dawned on me that when we include a conversation about inflation, it does two things. First of all, it's a more realistic approach to understanding how final expenses are paid, and B, it has the obvious benefit of giving us a higher case size.
Right.
So right now it's 2021 October. Nobody knows what the future holds, but if you read the news right now, there's all talks about inflation, lumber prices through the roof, all the container ships off the coast can't deliver, and prices on real estate going up. Inflation is something that's real, and there's periods of time where inflation goes through the roof, like the 70s with the oil crisis, and then it stays stable for a while. But the thing is, every senior has lived through, at this point, the 70s, the 80s. They remember as a kid buying milk for a dime, and now it's $5.50 a gallon. So the reason we have the inflation talk is people look back and understand that in the past inflation happened, but what they don't readily recognize as easily is that inflation will continue to come. It is a reality of the economic system we live in, and it's never going to go away. So it's only responsible to talk about not just today's prices to die, but tomorrow's too. So that's where the inflation talk comes in, because it gives them a sober look at what it will go. And you brought up we showed with the resource guides, we have a chart that shows prices going up with regular inflation assumed, that's been constant, that the average for the last 100 years approximately. We show producer price indexes of how prices have gone up 250% since 86 or something like that. So all of this is to help us potentially sell more coverage, to sell the need beyond what they assumed it would be. And you did a really good job of that. The one thing I would critique, and you did this at the end, which was good, make sure in the beginning you want to say something like, okay, so what's your understanding of pricing on funerals, and maybe 7 to 10 or 12 or whatever. Yeah, well, explain why you're explaining it to them. So let me tell you why I'm explaining about prices, because most people think about what prices are today.
Right.
And that makes sense. You see it on TV, you see what other people die at as far as price goes. But what most people don't think about is what prices will be. You remember back in the day, Mr. Prospect, when a gallon of milk was 10 cents, right? You could get gas for under 50 cents. Now what is it? Way through the roof. Well, guess what? All that price increases is just going to continue to go.
Right.
And the reason this is important is you need to make sure you just don't have enough for today, you have enough for the future too. Does that make sense? Okay. So you make sure I would preface the whole talk on the numbers and stuff with making the connection between what inflation has been and what it will be.
Right.
Any questions on that?
Is it? No, I'm just looking where.
Yeah, you're good.
I said, how much do you know about the high cost of funerals?
Mhm.
By saying that sentence, and how it continues to go up.
So yeah, how do you know the high possibility? No, I know it's 12,000 to bury somebody. At that point, before you get into the numbers, that's where you want to insert that little phrase. So the reason I'm asking you is because most people think about what today's prices are, not tomorrow's. And everybody who's your age remembers how cheap things used to be. But what a lot of people don't understand is how expensive they're going to continue to get. And how prices just keep going. And it's not just for,
So the reason I'm asking.
Yeah. So the reason I'm asking is because most people think about today's prices. Not the futures. And what you can do, you can watch this to get that script and just insert it there. Yeah, I think that'll be good. Check this real quick. All right.
Where do I slide this in?
That would be really right before you start talking about the 250% goes up.
Gotcha.
So it's like the preface to the numbers. One, and for the audience here, I'll say, the one thing I'll say, with our presentation, you want to tell them what you're going to tell them. Tell them what your plan was to tell them, then summarize what you've told them.
Right.
So you really want to be as very descriptive as possible and kind of beat the bush and kind of repeat but not say the same things. So we tell them what we're going to tell them, then we show them numbers to prove it, and then we remind them, hey, this is important because of what we told you earlier, right? Some people need to have things repeated to them a couple of times for it to make sense, so that's why we're going through this.
Especially because they're older.
Yeah, older. Some people this is conceptual, it's like inflation's not something you can touch or hold. It's kind of a intangible idea. Also, when you have somebody who's wants a burial, don't do the cremation talk. It's not a big deal, but you don't need to show how inflation prices are going up for cremation.
Right, I would have not really gone into the cremation.
You just did it okay.
Because you had already told me you wanted to be buried.
Right.
So, at that point, you already told me that piece of information.
Yeah. Okay.
But not everybody's that forthcoming.
Yeah. Right. Right.
They haven't thought about it.
Sure. Now, continuing, knee-jerk objection. Remember when I said something about $15,000? Can you give me a price on that? You remember that?
Yeah.
Earlier on? Okay. And how did you handle it?
I just kept going.
Just kept going, yeah. So this is a knee-jerk objection. So if you guys remember watching, I said something like, well, how much does $15,000 cost?
If I go to the price, though, when you asked, and I really went into it, then I lost the whole presentation.
Yeah, what did we lose? If we quote them then, what do we lose out on doing? What do we lose out?
The rest of the pre-qualifying of the presentation. So you give them the numbers before they have all the information.
Sure, exactly. And think about it. Do we even know at that point in time where they objected with the price question?
I basically can't answer your question right now because I don't
That's
have
right.
enough information.
Exactly. Yes.
So, I may have even been able to say that. I don't have enough information to tell you
Yeah.
this minute, but
That's perfect.
But I just kind of, if I went too far off the script, I may have not made it back.
Yeah, exactly. So guys, when you get these objections in your presentations, the key thing is to say like what Aaron suggested right then. Hey, good question. I don't know what that's going to be, but I promise I'm going to give it to you. I just need to ask you a few more questions.
Right.
And reasonable people with, half a brain will get that. Because if you show a price that's $15,000 with Trinity Life, well, what if they don't qualify for it? You've done them a disservice, and you're going to look like not an expert.
Right.
So there is a sequence of these things, and we can't get off the track. So that's good. Let's see here. Good summarization. So at the beginning of the pre-qualifying section, what we want to do before we ask about health questions is summarize what we've heard. So make sure I understand what you're saying, Aaron. You want a $15,000 plan to have total peace of mind. You don't want to end up like Jim and not have any coverage and have the whole family burdened. And you just want to make sure Emily has enough to make sure that she's not going to have to pay anything out of pocket, and that she's rest assured that you're covered and she's comfortable. Is that right?
Right.
It's kind of what he said, and that's perfect because this is in a sense is what we call a trial close. When you get them to say yes to that, well, they agree that they want that, right? So that's the first chain of yeses that are significant. Yes, I want that. Later on, we ask which one of these term, whole life, or guaranteed issue do you want? That's another trial close. These are kind of inching our way towards getting them fully committed.
Right. Well, and you're saying what you want, so afterwards it's going to be really hard to say you don't want it.
Yes. Yeah, bingo. Why is it important to get them saying what they want?
Because then they sell themselves.
Right. There's no better way to sell anything than get the person to say they want to buy it. And that's kind of what we're doing here in a sense. Okay. Little catch here. I was trying to trick you. I tried to trip you up a few times. I got lucky a few times. Do you remember when you asked about tobacco and I said, not anymore? You remember that? You said, do you have used tobacco at all? And I said, no, not anymore.
Right.
Remember that vaguely? Okay.
I would, to be honest, I think you said, did you say not anymore?
I didn't.
Well, but later on I asked you, when I asked the basic health question, you said it had been more than 2 years. So
Yes.
That's,
But in the beginning, we want to make sure if you hear anything other than a no, it's a yes. So when I say not anymore, what if I quit 6 months ago?
right.
Well, according to the questions on the application, I'd have to answer yes because it's a 12-month
Right.
So just make sure if you hear anything, you want to say it like, have you used tobacco in any form in the past 12 months?
Right.
And then that way it's more specific. One thing you did very well, you were a good agent will almost border on being nosy with the health questions.
Right.
And there were instances where I was like, I'm in good shape. Nope, I don't have any problems. Nope. And you kept going deeper and digging, right? You were specifically naming conditions,
Right.
medication usage, etc. That's really important because some people won't fully disclose what their health problems are. Or they'll say, I got a touch of HIV, so what?
Right.
You know what I mean? So they'll downplay the severity. And if you feel like you're stepping on toes, then when you go to approve somebody, they're not going to get accepted. They're going to get declined. They're going to get mad at you because you didn't push them enough. You didn't go deep enough.
Well, I know sometimes you're going to come. I had a person that I did a presentation to, and she answered all my questions the way I wanted to hear it, and she wanted insurance. Like, okay, let's do it. But if I'd asked the questions differently, because what turned out is I was on the phone interview, and then they're like, "Are you using oxygen?"
Yeah.
And she's like, "Yeah." Just hung up, right? So and I was like, "Oxygen? I was like, "Are you kidding?" In my mind, like, "Are you kidding me? Can I see it?" And she walked to her bedroom. There it was, her whole oxygen machine. But she'd been trying to get insurance, and she knew it. She was trying to get it anyways, you know.
Yeah.
So I think if I asked a question, I learned from that. I would need to ask the question and maybe ask it in a different way.
Yes.
Just, you know.
And I noticed that about the oxygen. You did kind of a
Well, I mean,
you don't have any oxygen.
I mean, I thought I was going to make $700, and I walked away with a big fat zero,
right.
you know. And,
right. Yeah. So being specific, being direct is how you ask these questions.
Because the oxygen, well, in that case, the oxygen use, does guaranteed issue do oxygen?
Yeah, you can do guaranteed issue.
So then I would have basically been able to like pivot,
right,
you do something different versus like being on the phone with the carrier and being like,
yeah,
caught with your pants down.
Right, exactly, 100%. All right, bank account question was fine. Budget back and forth. Again, real quick, bank account question. We want to say, we don't come around like the old days, pick up the check. The companies require us. We blame the companies for the bank drafts. The companies require the premium to come out on your deposit date and with either a local bank account, like a checking or savings account, or direct express card. Which one do you use?
Right.
So that was fine. And then the budget, everything was good on the budget. I would personally not bring the face amount into the conversation.
Okay.
Because what we're doing here, the purpose of the budget is to make sure we have a minimum amount of money to work with.
Right.
But when you introduce a value proposition, like if I can get you $15,000 between 50 and 75 or 75 and 85, then the client has the ability to say no. Does that make sense?
Right.
Oh, it's $15,000. That doesn't mean they will say no, but they could say no.
Right.
So what I prefer to do is, even if they brought up a $15,000 amount or any amount,
right,
don't mention it. We just want to know what they're comfortable paying.
Just put it in when you quote them.
Yeah, just show them. And then if they had mentioned earlier $15,000, then I would, at that point, at the end, when you showed me the three prices, I would have said, here's the three prices. I've got the first two prices, and this is at the close, guys. The first two prices are in that range, and then the third price is that one they wanted that's outside of the range.
Right.
And then I would have done a little sales pitch to say, so I know you wanted the 15, we can do it if you want to. But rest assured, your budget is what matters to me the most. And even if you get the good or the better option, the first or second one, they're still going to do the job for you.
Right.
You're going to be totally protected. You really want to reassure them. Because sometimes you're going to get people sometimes who are like, well, hell, if I can't get what I want, I don't want nothing, like a child.
Right.
So you got to start.
You had given me $50.
Yeah.
$15,000, which kind of give you like a bottom end, and then kind
right.
of what you really want. But I mean, we don't always get what we want, but if we get close enough.
Yes. It's the old Rolling Stones song. Can't get you what you want always, but you get what you need. And most people will accept that.
So then wait till after show the numbers to talk about that. Because I mean.
Yes, I like to wait for it, because at that point you've built a ton of value. They now, at the end and the close, they know what it's all about. They know how whole life versus term and guaranteed issue works. They're obviously sold on what you've got at this point. And then when you come ready to give them a reason why they can buy less if they're not comfortable with that budget, I think they're going to be better off that way. Because kind of what I worry about in a way is if you suggest that you can do $15,000 for a budget that you can't do it for, you're going to look not like an expert.
Right.
Well, actually, it's like the old thing. Well, I actually can't get what you want. I said we could do it, but we can't. It's like,
well, earlier you had said that you were looking to get about $15,000 for $50, and you're gonna have to pick one. But I'm
right.
not gonna tell you I can't do that right there, because then it kind of like ends the conversation.
Yes.
So I
right.
kind of have to ride with it until then. Once you know more about how the program works, I think you're gonna start realizing.
Yes.
That it's not going to be what you thought, but it's going to be something pretty awesome for you.
Yeah, and people will loosen up on their, because they think about when at the budget, they don't know what it's about.
Right.
But that's a good thing with budget because we're not getting, what I don't want to do is get somebody all hot and bothered about buying from me when, and they then give them a budget because they might buy too much in a state of exuberance.
Yeah.
You know, I want them to give me a budget that has no value associated with it because that's going to be the most honest answer. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like you could convince people to buy shit all day long they don't need, and they'll do it. But the problem in our business, if that happens, they do charge back. They're like, well, I guess I can't afford, like you were saying earlier, $200 a month. It sounded great, but now they're kind of sober again about it. And they're like, I don't think so. So we have,
especially because it's just simply not there. I mean,
Yeah.
for a lot of people, 200, 500, whatever, quoting
Right.
the top what they can possibly get is just not there. You know?
well, and yeah. And the truth of our final expense prospects, and I always say to not try to be a jerk, but the truth of our prospects is they're not good with money. They're at this point in their life because of a series of multitudes of bad financial decisions, a lot of them. And you're no different. It's not like they turned into some Dave Ramsey figure when you showed up.
Right.
They're still the same people they always been. They make bad decisions. And so we have to be the adult in the room and say things in a way that get them to make good decisions. We want them to make good decisions. And they can with your help.
Well, and other things, like people don't really talk about money. So like when you have a job, you just kind of expect that they take care of it all when you retire. And you
Right.
have that gap like you have.
So you had said something, I want to talk about this a little bit, about the budgeting. You had said you had had an experience in a prior final expense career where the budget was too high and there was lapses. Well, then why do we in our budget talk start with 150 to 200 a month?
Well, I mean, you just kind of like raise the bar a little bit. And, you were at 50, in your mind, you were probably around 50 somewhere, but the fact that we were able to get into 85 and really get you more to, 12,000 is a lot more substantial than 8, in my opinion. Right?
Sure.
So if you can do 85, it's a lot better for you and a lot better for Emily. So
Well, I want to spend some time just for the audience sake to help understand the budget, because we start high and then assume in most cases to go lower. I want you to understand why that's the case. So the reason we start high is because anytime you price a pricing strategy like this, you start with a high price. The lower prices sound better, but what ends up being lower is actually higher than if you had started lower. So let me explain.
Right.
So if I start at $200 a month, if I can qualify for a program for $150, $200 a month, and somebody flips out, the pivot to that is not to argue. You didn't argue with me on budget. The pivot is no problem. If I can find you another plan, say it was between 100 and 125 a month, that fits your budget. They say no again. Many times the third or the fourth time, when you go down to 75 to 100 or 50 to 75, they say yes. Well, they'll have an easier time of saying yes to 75 to 100 if you started at 200 than if you had started at 75 to 100.
Right.
You think, well, why don't people be honest with you? Because it's negotiations, it's sales. People are going to just hold their cards back because they don't want to pay as much as, they don't want to pay too much. And to an extent, price is relative to what's presented. When you show something that could be 200 and you end up at 75, that's a huge savings in a conceptual way.
Right.
But for going from 100 to 75, it's less savings. But it'll go in $100 to $50 a month. So what happens is with this one technique, if you start high and you end up at 75, guess what? You're having a higher average case size than if you had started at 100. Does that make sense?
Right. Absolutely.
So this is a critical strategy to maximize, and it's beautiful because it maximizes case size, thus your commission profitability, but it doesn't force the person to buy something they don't want. Because if they say no to me at 75 to 100, I'll go to 50 to 75.
Right.
If they say no to that, I'll go to 30 to 50. If they say no to that, I'll go to 15 to 20. I don't care. I just want them to buy something. And the fact that I move off of the price so willingly keeps my integrity intact.
Right.
They still want to buy from me. Because sometimes people are afraid of, what if I ask for 150 to 200 a month and they flip out? It's like, what if they throw me out of their house? They won't do it. if you do it the right way and you set it up, and your script to set it up was right. Everybody I see is on a fixed income. Why would you want to buy something that's unaffordable? Like that's getting rapport points with them. Any question on that?
Mm-hmm. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, in car sales, they do that all the time.
Yeah.
Because everybody comes in and wants $200 down, $200 a month because they see the advertisement. Well, you have to bust that. So, hit them with 800, they get all mad.
Yeah.
And then they walk away spending 400.
Right. Exactly.
So, but you have to shatter that mental expectation of 200 because there's no car you get for 200.
Right. Yeah.
And I just think for you, like in this case, you wanted more than just what the $50 is going to give you. So,
right.
So.
Exactly.
And you didn't want to be like Jim, right? That didn't leave it behind. You didn't want Emily to have to take out a loan. So.
Right. Additionally, one other thing you did well was that I said, I think I can afford 75 to 100 or something. You said, okay, so if I can qualify for something a little less, and let's say it's between 50 to 75, whatever the numbers are. So you didn't accept I think I can do that, or I probably can do that as a yes, which is good.
Right.
When you're doing the budget strategy, it's imperative that there's only two answers. Yes, I can do it, and then everything else is a no. But sometimes a no sounds like I probably can do it. So a 95% yes is a no.
Well, you said you didn't know if you could do 100, but at 85 to 95, which is, because I don't know, I've been running, I know kind of like how much it's going to cost you.
Right.
So I figured if I can get you somewhere in there, we can get close to what you want.
Right. Exactly. So again, don't take a budget that you don't have total confirmation for.
Right.
Or you're going to get to the end and they'll say, I still need to think about it. And you're like, shit. Okay.
Because you were still not, once you gave me the okay with the 85 to 95, then you're like, in your mind, you're already okay with it. So.
Yeah. And that's him, again, another trial close. Yeah, I can afford that. Yeah, I want this. Yeah, I can afford that. We're moving the dial towards the ultimate close, which is give me your money, take the policy.
Correct.
A couple other things here. Good stage 3 presentation, difference between term, guaranteed issue, whole life, buy the book, perfect. I really want you, tonality-wise, you asked for some tonality. Where you want to do, you really want to take to an extent, you don't have to do the Jordan Belfort, Billy Mays approach here. But you do want to be like, you almost want to think of yourself when you present, like you're talking to your friend, explaining how crappy these plans are. And you don't want to say they're crappy, but you want to have the tonality. Like, so check this out. This term insurance, you ever heard of term? Yeah, term. Guess what? Term terminates.
Yeah.
You ever think about this? So check this out. Look at this AARP. It cancels at 80. Can you believe that? Like, I kind of take the perception of being like offended, and like, I'm on your side, Mr. Prospect. These guys are terrible, right?
Yeah.
It's like I physically I think in my mind, I'm physically sitting on your side of the table yelling at the other guy. So we want to take that type of performative tonality. And then when we talk about ours, we want to get a little bit more excited in this case. So let me tell you how mine works. So here's how mine works. And you want to have this sense of certainty and assurance in your voice. Trying to think of, there's an Allstate commercial with a dude, and he has a real deep voice, and it's comforting. Or it's like Morgan Freeman talking to you. Like
it's the guy from 24, the president.
I don't know.
Yeah.
But you want, like, I think of Morgan Freeman selling something like he has this deep voice, assuring voice, like you're doing the right thing. That's how you want to think when you're talking about what you do.
Allstate.
Yes. So, here's our plan is whole life insurance. Here's how it works. Number 1, you're completely protected from the first day. That means if you die for any reason, Mr. Prospect, you are covered. And I'll do the whole slap on the table because it's like firm, hard, and even my voice, you are covered. There's that kind of like certainty with that kind of staccato, right?
Okay.
So I'll talk like that. And then I'll look them in the eye when I'm saying it too, of course. So you want to have that kind of tonality. Like, this is the answer.
Right.
So you kind of make that shift performance-wise from Look at how bad these things are, but look how good this is. Right? One thing you missed at the close, well, at the end of stage 3. So between term life that cancels, guaranteed issue that doesn't cover you for 2 years, and my plan that fully protects you, never goes up in price.
Right. I didn't have that line.
Yeah, it's okay. Which one do you want to go with? So that's another trial close that gets them sold on your product. Right. And then, but then you said, why do you like mine better? Right? You did say that, which is what you want to say after that, which is good. Because you want them to verbalize, like you said, why they want to buy it. Because nothing ever sells better than your own self.
Right.
One little note, make sure when you're presenting Trinity, any company that we do, show them the brochure.
Yes.
So the company I work with is Trinity, check them out. Blah, 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 blah. Big one. The reason, and you kind of hit this, and remember I don't remember exactly how it went, but I know you didn't do this, but you need to. The reason I'm recommending Trinity to you is because they've got the best prices for your age group. So when we're looking for coverage on somebody who's 71 years old and as good a shape as you, these guys have the best plan, best combination of coverage and price. You got to give them a reason why you're recommending them. Okay.
Right.
So if it's somebody has COPD and I say, here's Forrester's, I'm going to tell them, man, Forrester's is one of the few companies that fully protects you from the first aid,
right,
even though you got COPD. Because again, some people object like, oh, maybe I could get $15,000 for less. Well, we need to tell them that we're working with the best already, and you kind of did. Right. But I like to preempt that, saying I recommend them because their pricing's so good. Let me see. Do you have your 3 prices? I was just going to show the audience. That looked very good. So I know it's in the stack of stuff here. So when you get down to the close, face to face, you're going to show 3 different prices: a good, better, and best.
Did I give it to you?
I don't think so. You'll find it in a minute. So the good, better, best, you want to put in big, bold numbers at the top, the coverage amount, and then in smaller numbers at the bottom, the monthly premium it's going to cost, okay? And you can write it down. Actually, I can write it down. Can I still listen? Yeah. So I'm going to...
write it down somewhere.
That's okay.
Houdini on me.
Yeah, that's all right.
Yeah, I wrote it on the back or something.
So, and I'm just going to do this for demonstration purposes. So, these aren't exactly the same numbers, but check this out, guys. So right here is how this should look. I'm going to get it nice and close, so hopefully you can see it. I kind of, I'm kind of goofy with my writing. So, but notice the big numbers at the top and the little baby numbers at the bottom, right? We want to overemphasize the benefit, not the cost. And this may seem cheesy doing this, but Ben Feldman did the same stuff with VIP 1%ers and that owned factories and employed hundreds of people. A big check and little check. It actually works really well. If it works well on somebody that, is some, big wig running a company, it's going to work for your line worker too. Okay. So we show these prices, there it is, and the client, you show it to them on a clean sheet of paper, just like you did, and you tell them what you recommend. Now you said, I recommend the one that's best suited for your budget. I don't care what the reason you recommend is. It's going to change by the person.
Right.
I might say, so, Mr. Prospect, so here's the prices that we can do for you. 50 is this, 75 is that, 100 is that. My recommendation is to either pick the 75 or the 100 because both of these are going to cover your burial today and give Emily peace of mind when the time comes that she's covered. So that way, when you give a recommendation, it just gives them more confidence in making a decision. Now, I might say something like when the guy said 15,000, I might say something in response like, so you can see the 15,000 is a little high, but you know what? If you got the 12,000, Mr. Prospect, that's going to do the job too. So my recommendation is to get either one of these. You're going to have total peace of mind. You're never going to have to worry about prices going up, and Emily's going to be protected. Then you close. Which one of these do you want to start with today? And that was good. You did that for sure. So excellent job. I mean, I don't really have any big critiques for you other than more of the performance aspect, and that will come along. You know, the enthusiasm, as Belfort calls it, that will come along as you do this more. It's just a matter of repetition and roteness.
When I was driving here, I did the Colonial Pen and the AARP.
Okay.
I did it with like the Godfather's voice. Like, can you believe it? They cancel on me. You know, it's like I was having a little fun with it just to get it stuck in my head a little bit.
Hey.
And then when I was reading it, I just had like this, this Italian mafia guy. Like, can you believe it? I can't believe they do this.
Right, with the hands and all, yeah. Now, I learned the preamble to the Constitution singing Under the Bridge, Red Hot Chili Peppers. It's funny how I remember that.
Well, but that's how
We the people of the United States. You know the whole.
Yeah.
So.
That's great. You have to have some kind of anchor.
Yeah.
Like every time I get to AARP, I have like, the Don.
Right, Tony Montana's coming out. You know.
Can you believe it?
Right.
Cancels like.
Sopranos sells life insurance. Okay. What do you want to cover at this point with the presentation? Is there anything here we can hit on that we haven't hit? I think you're ready to go, man. I think everything sounds really good. I'm not particularly worried about anything.
I mean, and also the enthusiasm with that last part is just I've worked on that part of the script, but not like.
Yeah.
So,
I get it.
But it is something I want to definitely work on.
This is acceptable for a beginning agent in front of clients. Like, you're not, like, there's no major errors you're making here. Like, I'm not hearing anything that's like, you got to fix this. You're obviously not studying. You obviously have studied. You're going to do just fine. In about 25 presentations, you'll be like right on task.
I will say this too, like David. This is actually one of the reasons why I signed up with you.
Okay.
Just because I've studied, I study this stuff a little bit, and people say you have to have the script, but then you have to have all these different things in it, and the script really, somebody understands that, so I don't, it's a little bit of trial and error putting the script together. Like,
sure.
I've done the Jordan Belfort course, and that's okay, and I'll sit down and put the script together, but then I don't have enough knowledge about the background of all these products,
right,
and experience to put the script together, so it's still guesswork for me. So
right.
Being able to eliminate guesswork. Another thing is like most of my good answers were in the script.
Yep.
So I don't have to. Like, I'm already under pressure, right? I'm going to be in somebody else's home.
Sure. Right.
Stranger danger, whatever you.
Yeah.
But
sure.
I'm trying to do this whole presentation. I got a lot of money on the line. Last thing I need to do is try to think of what I need to say
right.
next, because my brain's going to go to zero.
Right.
And I'll talk, and then you go to talk about football and turn the TV out.
Yeah, I know. It's like, oh boy.
So I thought when I saw the script, I knew for a fact I was in the right place, because somebody that has experience in this field understands what I'm thinking, or
right.
understands the things that need to be in it, because you have those questions up front, and then later on you really, it's like Claude Whitaker said, like once you get to the close, you either already have it done, or there's really nothing you can do at that point.
Yeah, it's either done or not.
That's always been my sales philosophy, because I hated getting to the end and then having to beat around it the whole time, because I didn't get the information I needed up front.
Right. Yep.